Revealed, fired for saving a veteran-s dog, she inspires incredible transformation in 5 minutes. Emma had always believed that one small act of kindness could change the world. As she served coffee and warm plates at the diner, her heart felt heavy with the weight of her daily struggles. A single mother working tirelessly to provide for her 2 children, Emma's paycheck barely covered the bills. But every now and then, she would find $1 lost in the cushions of the booth. She would save it, a little gesture to buy milk for a neighbor's child, or diapers for a new mom. One fateful afternoon, as Emma wiped the counter, she heard Mr. Peterson's tremulous voice recounting tales of his beloved dog, Scout. The Vietnam veteran sat in the corner booth, weighed down by worries, his spirit as low as his finances. "She's been so sick," he confided, his eyes misty. "I don't have money for her meds. I just can't let her go." Emma's chest tightened at the thought of a loyal companion in pain. How familiar his plight felt, how closely it resonated with her own life. It wasn't long before Emma decided to step in. Knowing her own budget was tight, she didn't hesitate to bring him homemade soup and extra medications she could spare from her children's prescriptions. "You need this more than we do," she insisted, placing the packages on his table. However, one evening, she received a heartbreaking call. The dog shelter had announced they would euthanize Scout the next morning. Emma's heart raced as she stood by the diner's window, watching the world pass by outside. Could she really do this? Was it wise to risk everything she had for an animal she had never met? But the faces of her children, and the image of Mr. Peterson's tear-streaked face, propelled her into action. With no hesitation, she rushed to the shelter, recognizing the gamble that lay before her. Her job, her paycheck, everything was at stake. When she made the desperate plea to save Scout, the shelter manager shook his head. "This isn't a charity." That moment felt like the world had shattered, but Emma's heart burned brighter. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days later, the diner echoed with whispers. Emma was fired, deemed reckless for saving a dog instead of focusing on her needy family. The community was split. Some called her a hero, others a fool. Emma stood at the heart of a storm, each opinion like a blade cutting into her resolve, but as her story spread, people started to shift. They remembered their own pets, their own sacrifices. A neighboring family, who had seen Emma's kind heart through the years, offered her quiet but powerful support. "She taught us about love," they said. While sadness loomed, alongside it rose a flickering flame of unity. As emotions simmered in the town, thoughts began to dance freely, questioning everyone's values and choices. Would the townspeople choose judgment or compassion? Emma's bond with Mr. Peterson and Scout had ignited something deeper, a hope that echoed through them all. Amidst hardship, would they rise together, or succumb to their doubts? Emma's courage, driven by love, had sparked something inadvertent, a chance for everyone to confront what it truly meant to stand for one another. Would they finally find a way to embrace the light? As the whispers grew louder, the air felt electric, thick with anticipation of what was to come. The morning after Emma's dismissal from the diner, the sun rose with an eerie stillness, its golden rays sneaking through the blinds of her small, cluttered apartment. Emma stood at the kitchen sink, washing the few dishes left from yesterday's hurried breakfast. She gazed out the window, clouds forming in the distance, mirroring the storm brewing inside her. What would she tell her children? How much should she share? The fear of letting them down gnawed at her. They were used to her resilience, her ability to juggle everything. But now, without her job, how could she face them? She shook her head, trying to dispel the doubt that settled like a thick fog. "Mom!" A cheerful voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Lily, her youngest daughter, bounding into the kitchen. "Can we go to the park today? I want to take Bella." Emma turned, forcing a smile. "Sure, honey. Just let me finish up here." As Lily's excitement filled the space, Emma's heart warmed. The little pauses in life, the simple joys, they mattered. But as she gathered herself to answer, Lily's curiosity flickered. "What's wrong, Mom? You look sad." Emma knelt to Lily's level, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I just have a lot on my mind, sweet pea. But I promise I'm okay." Before she could distract Lily with talk of the park, her phone buzzed on the countertop, startling her. It was a message from Mr. Peterson. "Can we meet? I need your help." A wave of uncertainty washed over her. She hadn't spoken to him since that fateful day, but a gnawing sense of responsibility urged her to respond. After a quick breakfast of toast, they headed to the park, where Lily ran ahead to play. Emma sat on a bench, staring at the swaying trees. Her thoughts lingered on Scout and Mr. Peterson. The weight of everything hung heavily, but then she spotted a group gathering nearer to the dog park, a familiar face at the center. Mr. Peterson stood, surrounded by a small crowd, his voice strong but shaking. "I know what Emma did for me," and Scout. His words were just above a whisper, but the audience leaned in closer, intrigued. "She showed me we can't give up when it gets hard." Emma's heart raced as she approached, feeling a blend of embarrassment and pride. The crowd turned, eyes widening in recognition. "Look! That's Emma!" someone yelled. Her heart ached as they began to cheer for her. "Thank you," Mr. Peterson continued, his hand steadying him. "They're trying to silence kindness out there. But it's time to stand up for what matters. For each other." As the gathering grew, Emma felt a flutter of something she had dared not hope for: support. Would they really stand beside her? Maybe there was still a chance for connection in the tangle of challenges she faced. "Emma!" someone called out, a voice she recognized. It was Mrs. Henderson, an elderly neighbor who had watched Emma struggle for years. "We're holding a fundraiser to help you and Mr. Peterson. Scout needs a vet, and so does your family." Emma blinked, tears welling as the momentum shifted. What started as an act of love had spiraled into a movement, a community realizing they needed to support one another more than ever. That day, standing in the park as familiar faces surrounded her, Emma felt a flicker of hope igniting inside her. But the evident warmth of unity brought with it another question: how far were they willing to go? As the day drew to a close, the crowd parted like waves, and Emma caught Mr. Peterson's eye. "Let's do this together," he said, his voice full of resolve. But just as Emma was ready to embrace what lay ahead, a shadow loomed behind her. Someone she hadn't wished to see again approached, eyes locked on her with an intensity that chilled her to the bone. Would the support they had rallied last in the face of looming conflict? Emma's heart raced as she turned to face the approaching figure. It was Tom, her former boss from the diner. His expression was a mix of anger and confusion, with his fists clenched at his sides. A wave of anxiety swept over her, she had feared this moment. "Emma," he called out, his voice sharp and accusing. "You need to stop using this ridiculous story to get sympathy." The crowd grew silent, shifting their attention to Tom, and for a moment, Emma felt exposed, bare under their watchful eyes. "I'm not trying to get sympathy, Tom. I did what I thought was right," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Right? You got yourself fired. You think that's right?" He stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "And now you want a parade for it? You think people will forget what you did?" "Tom, this isn't about me," Emma said, her heart pounding. She felt the tension in the air, thick enough to cut. "It's about Scout, it's about Mr. Peterson, and what we can do together as a community." At the mention of Scout, the crowd murmured. Some people nodded, their expressions softening as they recalled the brave little dog that had brought them all together. Somewhere in the back of her mind, Emma thought about what it meant to be the person everyone looked to now. She turned back to the crowd. I didn't want this to happen. I just wanted to help. Tom scoffed, raising a finger to silence her. You think you're a hero? This was your choice. You shouldn't bring everyone else into your bad decisions. Your bad decision? Mr. Peterson intervened, stepping in front of Emma and crossing his arms. You fired her for showing compassion, Tom. That's the worst decision you could have made. The crowd began to murmur again, their voices rising in support of Emma and Mr. Peterson. Tom, you've got no idea what it's like, a local teacher called out. We stand by those who do right by others. Emma looked up, surprised by the tide turning in her favor. This was the kind of support she had wanted to believe in but never allowed herself to hope for. As the crowd rallied, she felt a sense of relief wash over her. But just as quickly, it was accompanied by a wave of uncertainty. Would this newfound unity hold against Tom's obvious determination to tear it apart? Let us see how you feel when hundreds of people line up to donate just to keep you in your cozy apartment, Tom shot back, but his voice was less sure now, the crowd's support visibly wavering him. Emma stepped forward again, her determination rising. We're doing this together. It's time to create change and show that compassion wins over anger, no matter how loud it gets. Her words resonated. People shouted agreement, and Emma felt the passion of those around her. At that moment, she realized it wasn't just about her anymore, it was about all of them, but in the heat of the moment, as the crowd rallied, another figure caught her eye from the edge of the park. A man she recognized, one she hadn't seen in years. His old leather jacket told stories she would rather forget. A wave of fear gripped her heart. Had he come to stir things up even more? Who was he, and what impact would he have on the fragile hope they had built today? Emma's heart sank as the man moved closer. His brown hair was tousled, and his eyes, once familiar, now held a darkness that unsettled her. Memories flooded back, nights spent wondering what he would do next, frightened whispers among friends. Eddie, she breathed, unsure if she should feel relief or terror. He stopped, scanning the crowd, his gaze sharp. The murmurs subsided. She could see curiosity mixed with wariness in the faces around her. They couldn't sense the history that loomed between them. Look who finally decided to step out of the shadows, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. I've been hearing stories, Emma. Caring for stray dogs? Is that the best you could come up with? Or do you just want a little attention? The audience shifted uneasily. Emma clenched her fists, control slipping away. This is about more than me, she insisted, her voice steady as she battled against the tempest inside. This is about community, about compassion. Compassion. Eddie exploded, laughter echoing against the trees. And how many friends did you throw under the bus for that? You think anyone here actually cares? It's all about the likes and the shares. You're just playing the victim. The crowd began to murmur again, confused but still leaning in Emma's direction. She could feel Mr. Peterson at her back, strength radiating from him like a lighthouse in a storm. Maybe you don't understand what caring really means, he said quietly but firmly, interrupting Eddie's tirade. Maybe you're just jealous that someone is finally making a difference. Emma's breath caught. His words felt like a warm hug amid the chill of their unspoken history. Difference? Eddie laughed again, but it lacked the earlier bite. He seemed almost fragile beneath the weight of his own bravado. You're all being played. She's using everyone to get back at Tom. No, Emma cried out, her voice rising above the din. I'm fighting for the things that matter, like Scout and the people in this town. We can lift each other up. That was when she felt it, the crowd's energy shifting. They were warming to her words while Eddie's bravado began to crumble, cracking like ice underfoot. Do you really think you're better than me, Emma? Eddie asked, voice barely above a whisper now. The anger was replaced by something deeper, fear. vulnerability. You think you can just walk away from the past? Her heart twisted with empathy. I've changed, Eddie. We can all change. We don't have to stay chained to who we were. Suddenly, a woman stepped forward from the crowd. I remember what you did for Mr. Peterson's house, Emma. You didn't just care about a dog, you cared about the man who lost everything. That's why we stand with you. A ripple of agreement spread through the onlookers. Emma glanced at Eddie, who looked stunned. For the first time that day, she saw the hurt hidden beneath his bravado. Perhaps he needed compassion more than anger. The crowd continued to rally, voices rising in a chorus of support. But in that moment, as hope surged within Emma, she knew this was just the beginning. Eddie's gaze locked with hers, a shared silence echoing years of unresolved conflict. Was there a chance they could move past the shadows of the past? Could this moment forge a new direction? The air felt electrified, the kind of energy that came before something monumental. Emma took a deep breath, staring into his eyes, daring to hope what lay behind Eddie's guarded expression. Would he turn from conflict to collaboration, or would his own demons drown the chance for reunion? As the crowd's murmurs grew louder, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that Eddie was at a crossroads. His eyes flashed between rage and the flicker of something softer, a glimmer of something that might be redeemable, yet so frightening to confront. You're all just pawns, Eddie spat, but the words had less weight now. Anger was dissolving in the face of mounting pressure. Emma's heart raced, feeling the swell of support from those around her. It was like a rising tide, lifting her spirit and urging her to push harder. Eddie, she started, her voice steady as it cut through the chaos, I'm not using anyone. I'm simply trying to help people who are hurting. You can too. We're in this together. He hesitated, glancing down as if the ground had suddenly become more interesting than their confrontation. Emma could almost see the wheels turning in his mind, wrestling with his past and the self-doubt that crept in. Why do you care so much? He finally asked, his voice cracking, revealing a vulnerability that was achingly raw. You could just walk away. You could pretend we don't exist. A deep breath escaped her, and she stepped back, letting the weight of her response settle. Because I can't, Eddie. I can't forget what happened. I can't stand by when there's so much we could be doing. Her plea resonated like a heartbeat in the space between them. I wanted. His voice trailed off. Emma strained to hear, anticipation clawing at her gut. I wanted to be the hero, you know. But I just became the villain. The crowd held its breath, the collective silence wrapping around them like a cocoon. This was a moment not just for Emma, but for Eddie as well, a chance for him to reclaim a part of himself shrouded in darkness. She stepped forward, searching for words that could bridge the divide. Being heroic isn't about being perfect, Eddie. It's about standing up, acknowledging your flaws, and deciding to make things right. You can change this story. He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, there was no more sarcasm, just a glimmer of hope mixed with fear in his gaze. Emma sensed a shift, the fragile space between them beginning to crack open. Okay, he murmured, almost to himself. Okay, what do I do? Her heart surged at his willingness to shift, to maybe come back from years of darkness that threatened to consume him. They could do this together, they could help one another. But there was still a mountain to climb. Eddie's eyes flickered to the crowd, a mix of apprehension and newfound determination stirring within him. You truly believe this? He asked, his voice stronger now. That we could actually help? Yes, Emma said, her voice steady and filled with warmth. I believe we can build something beautiful, not just for ourselves but for everyone in town. We've fallen apart, but we can come together. Let us be heroes, not just for ourselves, but for each other. The crowd erupted in enthusiastic cheers, the energy electric as hope ignited a fire in their hearts. Emma could see Eddie's posture begin to shift. The wall around him was starting to crack, and light was peeking through. Let us do it, Eddie said, standing a little taller. Emma could hardly believe what she was hearing. Maybe they really could turn this moment into something transformative, yet, even as the crowd celebrated, Emma felt a breeze of uncertainty ripple across her skin. What lay ahead? Would Eddie truly embrace this new path, or would shadows from the past yank him back down? And just as she felt that flicker of hope gaining ground in her chest, a shout from the back of the crowd caught her attention. "Look out!" Emma turned, her heart racing again. What could threaten this fragile moment of liberation? Emma's heart dropped as she spun around, the cheers of the crowd still ringing in her ears, replaced suddenly by a sense of impending doom. The crowd parted, and from the back, a figure pushed through, a fierce look in their eyes. It was Lisa, Eddie's old friend, someone who had known both of them when the world felt less complicated. "What the hell is going on?" Lisa shouted, her voice sharp and accusatory. "You can't trust him, Emma. Don't you see? He's just playing you." The air thickened with tension. Emma felt Eddie stiffen beside her, the fragile shift in mood dissolving like sugar in water. The glimmer of hope faded, making way for shadows once again. A knot twisted in her stomach, the moment was teetering on the brink. "I'm not playing anyone," Eddie snapped, his voice steady but quivering with the weight of pain. "I'm trying to make amends, Lisa." "Make amends?" Lisa mocked, a harsh laugh escaping her lips. "You don't even know what that means. People don't just forget what you've done. You can't just wipe the slate clean because you feel guilty." The crowd shifted, uncertainty swelling like a wave ready to crash. Emma could see the myriad of expressions, some were sympathetic, but many wore masks of doubt. Emma stepped forward, keen on not letting this moment slip away. "Lisa, we're trying to build something new here. Eddie wants to change. We all deserve a chance, don't we? To be someone better." But Lisa wasn't finished. Drawing closer, she locked eyes with Eddie. "Do you even care about anyone but yourself? You've done enough damage already. Look at you standing there, pretending you can just decide to be a hero." Eddie's face twisted, anguish replacing anger. Yet it was as if her words pierced through the facade he had been trying to maintain. The darkness threatened again, inching back into view. Emma could see it battling within him, the desire to be better clashing with the weight of history, inching forward just to be yanked back. "Stop. Please," Eddie choked out, desperation coating his voice. "I know I messed up. I've carried that burden for years. I can't just let it go. But I want," he faltered, taking a deep breath as if steeling himself against the tide of his own thoughts. "We are not our past, Eddie," Emma urged, her heart thudding painfully in her chest. "You can't let that define you. Let us fight against the mistakes and own them together." The crowd was quiet now, the tension forming a taut string ready to snap. Eddie looked into Emma's eyes, searching for something, a lifeline, perhaps. But as the silence lingered, the sound of a twig snapping in the distance broke the moment, drawing everyone's attention. "Look!" someone gasped, pointing at the outskirts of the gathering. A small group of hooded figures emerged from behind the trees, moving toward them, handheld objects glinting in the sunlight. Emma's stomach tightened. "What do they want?" she whispered, fear washed over the crowd as whispers morphed into panic. They were just beginning to unite, only to be met with something that threatened to tear them apart once again. Eddie stepped in closer to Emma, a protective instinct kicking in. Emma's pulse raced as the figures drew nearer. She had to stay strong, stay hopeful. Was this the moment that would shatter everything they had tried to build? Or would it be another test of their resolve, pushing them even further along a path of transformation? One thing was certain, this gathering was far from over. The hooded figures moved like shadows, their intentions hidden. Emma's heart pounded as she caught fleeting glimpses of their faces beneath the hoods. Fear scratched at her insides, but she forced herself to remain steady. Eddie's hand brushed against hers, a grounding presence amid the unfolding chaos. "Stay close," he murmured, his breath warm against her ear. The crowd tensed, shifting nervously as the figures emerged into the daylight. They were like a dark wave washing over the gathering, and Emma could see glimmers of metal that sent fresh chills down her spine. The tension in the air was palpable, thick and suffocating, and the uncertainty coiled around her heart like a snake. "What do you want?" someone shouted, voice trembling. The tallest of the hooded figures stepped forward, confidence radiating from her every movement. "We've come for Eddie," she declared, her voice commanding. It cut through the murmurs of the crowd, stealing breath and thoughts alike. Eddie's grip on Emma tightened, his face pale against the vibrant backdrop of anxious faces. "What do you mean? I've done nothing wrong, nothing I can't fix." The figure shook her head slowly, eyes piercing through the shadows of her hood. "That's not how things work, Eddie. You can't change the past, no matter how hard you try. We're here to remind you." Emma felt her chest tighten at the way her name sliced through the tension as if it were a physical blow. This was brutality wrapped in the guise of purpose, none of it making sense. "You have no right," Lisa shouted, stepping forward, anger igniting her demeanor. "This isn't about you. You're here to stir the past." The figure turned her gaze toward Lisa, smirking slightly. "You think you know what's right, don't you? You think you can dictate who deserves a second chance?" The crowd was restless now, shifting from fear to fury. Emma could see their faces, caught in a whirlwind of emotions, the whispers turning into shouts. "Please, just let him be," Emma cried out, her voice rising above the cacophony. Her heart raced, valiantly pushing against the fear wrapping around her. "He's trying. We're trying. Don't reduce us to our mistakes." For a moment, silence enveloped them. Even the hood seemed still, absorbing the weight of her plea. Then the leader chuckled softly, the sound both mocking and sympathetic. "You really think his intentions matter? What about the people he hurt?" Eddie's eyes flickered with a mix of rage and despair. "I don't want to hide. I'm here to face my past whatever it takes." "Then why don't you?" The leader leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. "Why don't you show all these people just how much you've changed?" Emma felt the energy shift again, the crowd growing restless. They were clinging to a thin thread of hope, but now doubt began to seep in. Would Eddie falter under this pressure? Could he truly prove that he was different, that he could be more? Eddie hesitated, glancing back at Emma, the turmoil visible in his eyes. The weight of the moment pressed down on him. This was his defining choice, a moment that would tell everyone, himself included, whether he had the strength to evolve from his past. But then, a shout rang out from the back, "Let us show them." Emma turned, caught off guard by the sudden surge of solidarity from the crowd. One after the other, others joined in, their voices rising in unison. "Let us do this together." Hope surged in Emma's chest, a brilliant light breaking through the shadows. Could this be the turning point they so desperately sought? The culmination of everything she and Eddie had fought for? As the crowd rallied around them, Emma found herself clutching Eddie's hand tighter. Fear battled with resolve. Would they rise from the ashes or be consumed by them? But their voices filled the air, stronger now, building an unbreakable barrier against doubt. Eddie stepped forward, taking a deep breath, determination shining in his eyes. "Okay, I'll show you." But what would that demonstration entail? What truths would Eddie reveal, and would it be enough to finally begin their journey toward healing? The tension held its breath, waiting. Eddie inhaled sharply, the air heavy with expectation. The tumult of voices around him faded into a dull roar as he focused on the figure before him, the crowd looming like a vast ocean behind him. He could feel Emma's eyes locked onto him, pouring encouragement and an unspoken promise of support directly into his heart. It pushed him on. "I know what I did was wrong," he began, his voice wavering slightly. "Once, I thought I could run from my mistakes. But running only led me further into darkness." The hooded figures shifted subtly, as if Eddie's revelation had momentarily disrupted their rhythm. "I hurt people," he continued, heart racing as he aired truths he had tried so hard to escape. "I thought I was protecting myself. But really, I was a coward." With every word, he could see the crowd catch their breath, their faces reflected in the sheen of uncertainty mixed with curiosity. He was peeling back layers, exposing the rawness of regret, and for the first time, he could feel the heaviness lifting. "What I truly want is to make amends," he said, now steadying his gaze on the leader of the hooded figures. "I want to show that I've changed, that I'm not that person anymore." "Change isn't a single act, Eddie," the hooded leader interrupted, her voice low and unyielding. "It requires sacrifice." Eddie nodded, the truth coming into sharper focus. His voice grew stronger, fueled by the resonance of his feelings. "Then I'll sacrifice whatever it takes. I'll face the people I hurt. I'll take responsibility, not just for myself but for everyone involved. I'll show them that I'm here for more than just redemption, I'm here to be better." As he spoke, Emma's heart swelled with pride. She remembered the day he first opened up about his past, the way he vowed to change. There was a truth in him that sparkled like a hidden gem, something precious that could lead them all to a brighter future. But doubt lingered in the air, heavy as fog. The gathering of hooded figures seemed unfazed, their expressions unreadable. Eddie's heart sank slightly as he wondered if even this earnest declaration would be enough to sway them. "Words are one thing, Eddie," the leader said, stepping in, her voice cutting through the tension with a blade-like precision. "It's your actions that will reveal your authenticity." The crowd stirred, the air thickening as anticipation and dread mingled. "Then let me act," Eddie replied fiercely, determination igniting something deep within him. "I'm ready. I want to start here, today." At that moment, Emma's grip tightened around Eddie's hand as she stepped forward, embodying the courage that had blossomed in his hearts. "We'll do this together," she declared, her voice unwavering. "We'll show those we've hurt that we want to make it right." The energy in the crowd shifted again, with murmurs of agreement rising like a choir. Each face now glimmered with renewed hope, emboldened by the commitment they had all unknowingly shared. The leader of the hooded figures hesitated, a flicker of something crossing her hidden features. "Hope can be a double-edged sword, you know," she finally replied, her tone almost dangerous. "Then let it cut through the truth," Eddie asserted, resolutely. "If we want to heal, it starts with honesty." The crowd roared with enthusiasm, their determination colliding against the fears that had once shackled them all. Emma felt the dynamic change, their shared purpose igniting a fire they all needed to see through. But just as the crowd began to swell with approval, the figure raised her hand sharply. "Very well. If you want to prove your change, you'll face the past right here, right now." With that, she motioned to the shadows, revealing familiar faces from Eddie's past, each one echoing with the pain he thought he left behind. Emma's heart raced. What was Eddie about to face, and would it finally bury the demons that haunted him? The moment of truth was approaching, holding everyone in a taut grip of breathless anticipation. Eddie's heart pounded in his chest as the familiar faces emerged from the shadows. It was like pulling bandages off long-healed wounds, exposing the raw, sensitive flesh underneath the faces of those he had wronged. The crowd held their breath, eyes flickering between Eddie and the new arrivals. He caught sight of David, a friend from school, a bright smile once lighting up his face. Now, the lines of hurt carved into his features told a different story. "You think you can just say you're sorry and everything resets?" David's voice held bitterness, a loaded question that sliced through the air. Eddie shook his head slowly, the weight of regret pushing down on him like a heavy blanket. "I don't expect forgiveness. I only want a chance to make things right." The other faces stirred in the crowd, murmurs spreading like ripples. Some looked skeptical, others hopeful. It was a mix as complex as the years of conflict that had brewed in silence. Each person held their own pieces of history, and Eddie could feel their anger radiating out like heat from a fire. I lost my job because of you, a woman named Claire piped up, her voice trembling with emotion. You were supposed to have my back. I know, Eddie said, the words choking him. And I can't change what happened. But I'm here to own up to it. I'm here to listen. Claire crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. Listen? And then what? You think that's enough to mend everything? No, Eddie replied, understanding deepening. But it's a start. I want to feel your pain, to understand how I contributed to it. Emma's fingers intertwined with his tighter, a silent bond of strength. She could see the flicker of something in Eddie's eyes, a mixture of fear and determination. He was right here, facing the very people who still bore the scars of his past mistakes. The leader of the hooded figures stepped closer, her presence commanding. Do you mean to say you'll put in the effort? Because it is rarely just about saying you're sorry. Eddie took a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing against him. I'm ready to learn. I'll do whatever it takes, he declared, vulnerability etched on his face. I'll work with you. I'll support you. Support? David stepped forward, skepticism heavy in his tone. You just want to make yourself feel better, don't you? No. Eddie's voice broke, desperation flooding him. I'm tired of running. I don't want to just feel better. I want to help heal what I broke. I grew up thinking I was the victim, but I see now I hurt people. I don't want anyone else to feel the way I did. David looked deeper into Eddie's eyes, searching for the truth he hoped to find. A few others started to move closer, drawn in by Eddie's open heart. The crowd began to breathe as one, energy shifting from resentment to something softer. We've all suffered, Eddie continued, urging them with raw sincerity. But this isn't just on me. We all bear pieces of this burden. Let us change it together. Silence hung as people processed his words. Eddie scanned the faces around him, searching for a flicker of recognition, for anything that would signal hope. Claire's icy demeanor thawed ever so slightly as she lowered her arms, pondering. If you're serious, show us. Prove it, Eddie. And just like that, hope sparked anew, a glimmer of possibility lighting the path for what might come next. But with it, came challenges, questions that would have to be answered and actions that must follow. As Eddie turned to Emma, a glimmer of resolve reflected in her eyes, both unsure yet ready to step into what was next. What now? She whispered, her voice trembling between excitement and fear. Eddie looked back at the faces in the crowd, a deep breath anchoring him. Now we dig deeper. We confront the truth together. With that, a wave of anticipation washed over the group. What truths would come to light? Would Eddie's past truly turn into a bridge toward their collective future? Each face held the promise of redemption, but the deeper question lingered, were they ready to rise together? Eddie stood before the crowd, a silent battle waging within him. The faces of those he had wronged looked back, expectant, waiting for something he wasn't sure he could provide. Emma squeezed his hand, a gentle reassurance reminding him he wasn't alone. Let us start here, he said, voice steady despite the tremors of uncertainty. It's time to put words into action. He took a step forward, eyes locking onto David, whose distrust hung thick in the air. I can't change the past, but I can try to make every day forward count. What does that even mean? David shot back, arms cross-guarding his heart. It means I want to hear your stories, Eddie replied, sincerity ingrained in every syllable. Let us take an honest look at our past and find a way to create a future that encompasses all of us. The crowd murmured. Some nodded, while others stayed skeptical. But Eddie could feel the shift, a softening of rigid defenses aching for understanding. One by one, they shared their narratives, each voice carving paths of pain mingled with hope. Claire spoke of dreams deferred, her career as an artist spiraled into oblivion because of Eddie's reckless decisions. You have no idea what that feels like, she said, voice wavering. You don't know what it's like to lose yourself. I don't, Eddie admitted. But I want to understand. I want to help others rise just as high. Emma watched the transformation unfold. With every heartfelt exchange, walls crumbled, replaced with awareness and unity. They were gradually turning resentment into connection, one story at a time. A chorus of shared experiences encased the park, each voice rising like a phoenix into the possibilities of tomorrow. As the last thread of darkness slipped away, hope began to twinkle like stars in a clear night sky, one they could reach together. Eddie turned to Emma, vulnerability raw yet infused with a new strength. This was always about community, wasn't it? About lifting each other up instead of tearing down? Yes, she smiled back, her eyes shining with appreciation. We found that together. The hooded leader finally stepped forward again, an unreadable expression on her face. Maybe you do know what transformation feels like, she said, nodding slowly in acceptance. You've turned the tide. But you can't stop here. The world outside still needs your kindness. Eddie stood tall, shadows of his past dissipating as he held Emma close. Then let us continue. We'll start a community initiative that not only helps those in need but uplifts everyone, including ourselves, he proposed. We can create a place where everyone feels valued, not just for what they've endured but for the strength they hold within. An audible gasp ran through the crowd. Could it be possible? Emma could see acceptance seed itself in their hearts, each hopeful smile blossoming among the weary. How can we help? Someone called out, excitement sparking across the assembly. Eddie glanced around, knowing this was just the beginning. Let us organize fundraisers, shelters, and community projects that bring as many people in as we can. He could feel momentum churning, fueling his resolve as the crowd began to rouse from their seats. The air pulsed with energy, anticipation. Emma looked on, emotions swirling in her chest. They'd risen from the shadows, together shifting the narrative from fear to faith. What began with one small act of kindness was blossoming into something monumental: healing, growth, community love. A few days later, the small park buzzed with excitement and laughter as families gathered for a fundraiser to help with Scout's vet bill, along with Emma's needs. Children played with dogs, each bark echoing through the air, saturating it with joy. Eddie stood at a booth, surrounded by smiling faces. As he chipped away at his past, he watched the community rise around him, reinforcing the bridges they had built together. When he spotted Emma across the field, joy spilling from her laughter, it struck him it was possible to change the world. They were doing it together. Their story didn't end here, nor did the fight to stay united. But it would continue, each day forging bonds of understanding, compassion, and community. As the sun dipped low in the horizon, spilling warm hues of gold and red, Eddie felt an overwhelming sense of connection. They didn't just survive the storm, they danced through it, hand in hand, ready for whatever came next. Don't wait, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread this incredible transformation. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your thoughts matter, and remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the power of change and kindness in action. Let us keep the story alive.